Hey everyone, welcome to the podcast 123 Eyes on Me, where we talk about all things education, things to improve, what's working, etc., etc. My name is Aaron, aka Mr. Jackson, and I'm on set with Rakeem. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Rakeem. I am a English 3 teacher and English 2 teacher. High school, been teaching for this. I'm going into my 5th year coming up. Went to UNC Greensboro. Graduated with a degree in religious studies and a minor in English. And I write poetry. What else you want to know? I don't know.
Hey, that's up to you, whatever you want to share. And yeah, UNCG is a really good school. I went there too.
Yes.
All right, so to kick things off, we're going to play a quick little game. So let's go ahead and get into it. The rules are very simple. I give you one word, you give me one word back that comes to mind, and I have a total of 4 words. You ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, first word, school.
Uh, Waking up early.
I'll say early bird or early riser.
Liver, yeah.
All right, number 2, teacher.
Leader.
Ooh, that's a really good one. 3 is money.
Uh, Lacking.
Ooh. And then the last one is time.
Short.
Short. Okay. All right, so with one of these, I'm going to pick your brain a little bit more here. When I said money, you said lacking. Were you referring to money going into the system or teacher pay?
I'd say all of it. All of it. I think it kind of goes hand in hand. So money for lacking for resources at times. And sometimes a lot of those resources do include teachers and kind of like retention of teachers and retaining, excellent teachers, having the funds to make education more interactive, more fun, more out of the box for students. So just kind of lacking all around despite the education lottery.
Really good. Yeah, I definitely agree on that. And then for the last one, for time, you put short. We already know that class times are pretty long, about an hour. Sometimes we wish they were shorter. So what were you referring to when you said short?
I'm referring to I'm referring to the time that with all you want to, you know, to teach, all the lessons you want to give, all the time you want to spend with the students um who maybe have certain challenge areas and so forth. It always seems like to me there's a shortage of time. Like we're almost always rushing. So there's this sense of urgency, either if it's because the semester is ending, because you got to get it by us. You want them to get it, but they don't have their entire lives to get it. As far as education is working, you got that. For some lessons, you just got that quarter. For that
Hmm.
semester, and if you, I'm not gonna say if you're lucky, but depending on how things go, you maybe can revisit things. But time just always seems like it's in short supply.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree with that as well. The first thing I thought was, just having those hour-long classes or 55 minutes. We'll just say an hour for now. And sometimes, the block schedule
Yeah,
even longer. I know some schools my friends went to had
yeah,
like, what, 4 periods a day, but I'm used to having the 6 or 7. So I
and
can only
even
imagine.
even with like the block schedule, even if you have a 90-minute class, then that means you're only going to have those students for 90 days. So you're still
Hmm.
short, even though you have that extra class time. The time of the year that you have with them is still shorter. So now you got to get it within that 90 minutes, but also within that 90 days, because the next semester you're going to have a new batch of students.
Hmm. Because even when I think about it, like I taught music, even fine arts, like some people will say, oh, it's music or it's art or it's PE. How are you struggling? And I feel like we struggle because, core teachers like you teach English and then math. So when they want to escape that, they come to music or art, but they don't focus because they're so used, they want that break, they don't want
Yeah,
to keep studying.
yeah.
So definitely lacking on both ends. So definitely the time thing was really good to note. That was great. All right, cool. Thanks for playing.
No
So that was
problem.
the little appetizer. So now let's get into the main course. So I just have 3 short questions. You already kind of touched on this earlier, but how long have you been teaching? And then were there any other grade levels or subjects that you taught apart from English?
Yeah, 4 years, and I only have been teaching English, but I've taught English 1, English 2, and English 3.
Okay, so I'm assuming that's the freshman, sophomore, junior.
Yes.
Yeah. So when it comes to teaching those grade levels, did you have like a favorite age group? Maybe a least favorite?
Initially, when I first started teaching, I was dead set on teaching seniors. I wanted to teach the age group that was closer to college. I felt like that was more my niche, my personal preference. Um, I enjoyed, though, at every level. I enjoy teaching the students for different reasons. As a freshman, it's like I'm your introduction to high school English and how that class works. So I kind of get to be, the first, which has its own challenges, of course.
Hmm.
Um, when you're trying to break them in from middle school, coming over into high school, and the different expectations, and how it's a shift of more accountability and responsibility towards the student. With sophomores, just a step up from freshmen, so they've matured a little bit. But for sophomores, you're getting them ready for the EOC, which you're doing with the freshmen too, but it's definitely more pressing with the
Yeah. Hmm.
sophomores. But I think my favorite is actually English three, and that's because of the curriculum. Teaching American literature is just right down my alley.
Hmm.
So that has been my favorite. And then they're not they're of course older than the freshmen and the sophomores, but they are uh, not quite at that place where they'd have the senioritis going on. So you
Yeah.
kind of got them when they're, I think, if they haven't yet realized what their goals are, um, by freshman or sophomore year, by junior year, it's a little bit more concrete for them. So that ideally um, helps with the motivation factor.
Hmm. You made me think very quickly to what you just mentioned when it came to. Sorry, my neighbor has a Mustang. So, yeah, when you just mentioned you like teaching 11th grade or English 3, as I recall, because of the American history. So, recently there's been that a big change in history where in certain schools you can't say certain things. They took a lot of things out of the history books, especially like African American culture. There's already so much missing, anyways. I believe the Holocaust was even taken out at one school. How do you feel about that? Have you heard about that recently?
Yes. So this whole banning of books and censorship of history is clearly problematic. Goes without saying. Um, it's a conundrum. Like, it's utterly confusing because if you're teaching American literature, like you go over and you look at you read over an account like of Plymouth Plantation. Um, the author's name is escaping me right now. But of Plymouth Plantation, you got the Pilgrims, they're landing, in the Americas and things, and they're giving this account of their interactions with the Native Americans, and just the way that they're being described. Is kind of like, how can you this is the history is the literature of earlier American writers, and in that literature, the students as well as the teachers see the rhetoric, and they see how people who look different are described. So it's almost unavoidable to discuss why this person is referred to as a savage, or why this particular um, act was taken against the Native Americans for the sake of land or for the sake of some other sort of profit. Again, just going throughout history, the civil rights movement, even before the civil rights movement, of course, it's just all it's intertwined in history. The Holocaust, race issues, um, all those things. And even if as a teacher I don't necessarily bring it up, the text will likely bring it up, and even if they don't, students bring it up. So I'm not understanding why all of a sudden history is up for up on the chopping block.
Hmm. It is crazy. It's like I don't want to like answer for them, the higher ups and the board who even wanted this to go because we already know that United States, each state can kind of do their own thing,
Right.
and that kind of sucks. I like the freedom, but at the same time, it's like some things just make no sense at all.
Exactly.
Others want to jump on that bandwagon, like this state's doing this, let me just go ahead and do it as well. But sometimes I think like, are they just trying to cover up? Like, are they embarrassed of our history or their history? Like at the same time, whether it's bad or not, as long as we're growing from that, there shouldn't be an issue.
Right.
It happened. We need to enlighten everyone. So you'd think we tell them the ins and outs So hopefully they can find a loophole or figure out what we did wrong, which is pretty obvious. It's like, what else are you know what I mean? At this point, like, what are you doing?
Right. It's all American history. So
Right, exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. So when it comes to you teaching specifically, I know you said about 4 years. So even if it's just one thing, it could be a lot of things, but just give me the number one thing that you really enjoy about working in education, like something you honestly enjoy.
I honestly enjoy the act of teaching, believe it or not, because it encompasses so much. For me, it's not just about giving that lecture or walking the students through this or that assignment. It's the environment you create in your classroom. It's how safe students feel to experiment, to explore, to answer a question and risk being wrong and not feeling like it's the end of the world. Um, that creating that environment and creating that culture within my classroom is a major part of teaching because then I get to see students who start off the year as very reserved or shy or introverted. They start to step outside of that comfort zone and interact more. And I love when I'm surprised when a particular student raises their hand to ask a question, and hopefully it's not to go to the bathroom, but to
Yeah.
ask an actual question, um, and to see them advocate for themselves. All of that. I mean, yeah, there's the standards, there's the curriculum, of
Mhm.
whatever the English curriculum is for whatever respective grade. But there's this aspect, this human aspect of teaching that I think is at least 50% of it all.
Hmm. No, that's really good. I like it. We need more teachers like you. And I know that's so cliche, but it's true because you actually care about the development. You
Yes.
care about their creativity. You care about what they think about, culture and today's society. A lot of teachers out there, I believe, are just out there, because they're power hungry, micromanaging. And it's like, there's so much more to doing that,
Right.
so much more to being in charge. Like, people like to be in charge. It's just kind of innate. It's within us. We want to be known for something. But I believe they take it too far. Um, so it's just crazy to think about. I can't think of the study that I'm thinking about right now. But a while back, there's a study with I can't remember what it was. It was more psychological. Like, people would dress up, I think, as police, and then the others would dress up as prisoners.
Uh-huh.
And you know what I'm
Yeah, I'm
talking
familiar
about? It
with
would mess
that.
with their minds to where they were power hungry.
Yep, the roles and
And
how they quickly fall into these roles.
I can't even think
Yeah.
of that study, but yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's sad, really. But so I'm glad because you care about, like I said, their emotional development, and you care about having natural conversation, not just saying, turn to this page, pass this EOC, get out of my class, as long as I get a raise because I passed you.
Right. I'm genuinely interested in what they think about
Hmm.
the information that we read, or that we study in whatever capacity that we study it. Like I want you to share your thoughts because I don't approach it as if I'm the only genius in the room or the only intelligent person in the room. I'm aware of where I am in the room, of course, but
Hmm.
I'm oftentimes surprised by the different perspectives and the thoughts that students are able to, you know, articulate in whatever form they do, and those are the moments that really stand out for me. Not so much what I stood up there and provided to them or told them, but when they take all of those things and they make these connections on their own and they start to see things and start to think when our thinking starts to align without me
Hmm.
necessarily saying it out loud, but when they're thinking along the same lines as I am, or vice versa, those are shining moments.
Hmm. Yeah, I love it, especially in music. When I directed the band at that high school, I loved it because I have, of course, I honestly teach to spark creation. I want to see other things happen, not just me playing my music or having them play what I arranged. But I remember there's a student. I'm not going to say his name, but there was a student who it was great. He was a great student, very talented. I wrote something for the band, and he was like, "Let's just try this instead. Let's try this instead." I was like, "Yeah, go right ahead, sure." He played it. It was lit. Like, it was so crazy. Everyone loved it, and I'm like, "This is exactly why I teach, because this moment right here."
Exactly.
Because when I'm long and gone, we're gonna need more ideas. And I'm not saying that I gave them all. I'm not trying to sound conceited, but it's just really good that there are fresh ideas out there.
Yes.
All right, so last question, then we are all finished. So, what's one thing you would change, and one thing you need to make it happen?
See, this is the question that I
It's a big one.
that yeah, it's a big one, and I can't say that I have really honestly a finite answer for it.
Mhm,
I don't know if this would be a change in the education system per se, um, but I would say I would change perceptions. Um, and what I mean by that is if this is I don't know if this is like a real life possibility, but if I so I don't know what I would need to accomplish it, but I would like to change perceptions of students, those who are unmotivated, who don't seem to grasp um, the opportunity that they have being in America and having a public school system that that is available to them, because we're not in countries where that there are countries and places where that's not available.
mhm,
So I think I would change the perception from the student perspective, even other fellow teachers, like that perception you talked about. The I'm the ruler of this classroom,
mhm.
and you guys are all my my peons and all that stuff. Like I just would like to change perceptions. I think more could get done within the classroom, within schools at large, if perceptions would change. Because if teachers' perceptions could change and students feel like they have more of a voice, because I asked my students this year at the beginning of the year, how many of you feel like you have a voice, and no one, maybe one or two of them
Mhm.
raised their hands, and I
That was
explained
wrong.
what I meant by that, and even still, that's how I got to two. I got to the two after I explained it, that no one really felt like they had a voice. So it was my mission within my classroom to let them know that yes, I'm the final authority, but at the end of the day, I encourage them to have their voice. So again, a shift in the perception that their voice matters, and I think as teachers I think our responsibility is to allow them that opportunity because, especially in high school, they're a few years away from going out into what we call the real world, as if school isn't the real world for them right
Mhm.
now, but they're going out into the world of adulthood, and I think some of them, with the way the school system is set up as far as so many opportunities you know that are afforded to kids who maybe didn't even really try it all through the year, but they are still able to come back at the end of the year and do this or that and able to still go to the next grade, which I understand it. However, that's not necessarily how your supervisor is going to handle
Mhm.
things if you decide to go to work and to not do work for a certain amount of time.
Mhm.
So just a shift in perspective is what I would change.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree with that. I love how you said that because I feel like that's the key that we need, in order to get them to really focus on school. Because so many of them are kind of just there. Like, why am I here? This is boring. I remember when I
Mm,
was teaching high school, not too long ago, like late last year, and even earlier this year, I was in a study hall with seniors, and they were just, I was asking them, what do you like about school? What don't you like about school? And a lot of them were like, I'm only having like 3 classes a day or 4 classes a day because I'm just working out with my dad, or I got so ahead in the previous years, I don't need to be here a full day, so I just leave early after this. I'm like, okay, that's really cool. So you're clearly about it. You're doing your work. You know what you need to do to get out or to excel in, like you said, adulthood and working in the quote unquote real world. But they just sound so bitter and sour. Oh, I hate it here. We're wasting our time, and I just don't think they know why they're there. Like if you really sit
right,
down and ask them, why do you think you're in school? Hopefully they would tell you, of course, it's for, a career, but it's much more than that as well. Education is very important. And I don't think they would all be able to answer that.
right.
So definitely perception is key. But that was really good. I like these answers a lot. We agree on a lot of things as well. And you even gave them new perspective. Like there's things I say, but then the way you worded them, it was top tier. It was really good. I appreciate that.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. But one last thing, a lot of people don't have room for dessert, but do you specifically have anything to say to the listeners before we close out, such as advice, words of encouragement?
um, yes, to anyone out there with children in their lives, whether it's parents, uncles, aunts, grandparents, so forth and so on, check in on them, encourage them. So it's not just the classroom teacher that is trying to explain to them the benefit of the education. make it a value in your home. Celebrate with them. And I don't mean just when they get an A or a B. If you have a student that you know struggles with math or struggles with English and they bring home that C and they communicated to you the struggle they had that semester, celebrate that C as if it's an A. Because if that literally is the best that that child could do, then that is an A, you know? So just kind of encourage and establish that normalcy and that value in the spaces outside of the schoolhouse, outside of campus.
That was beautiful. That was really good. All right, Rakeem with the heat. I loved how you said the C, it really is an A to them because we don't know how they feel. They may have worked their butts off to really get that C, Some people do struggle and nothing wrong with that. We're not all made to make an A in this system, let me add.
Right.
All right, so everyone, that's a wrap for today. So thanks for tuning in. And Rakeem, thanks again for joining this podcast. It meant a lot.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. All right, take care.
You too.